Leora sat in the corner of the orphanage room, her long, pale blue fingers clasped tightly together. Her large eyes, the color of soft amethyst, watched the other children from a distance. They laughed and played with one another, their voices filling the bright metallic room. But she could not join them. Every sound felt too loud, every movement too sudden. Her heart raced when anyone came near, and her voice, though soft and melodic, had not been heard in weeks. Being an orphan was hard enough, but being an alien orphan on a human-colonized planet made it worse. Humans and aliens lived together here, but the aliens who looked different or acted differently often felt left out. Leora knew this. She had learned early to stay quiet, to avoid trouble, and to keep her small presence unnoticed. Sometimes she wondered if anyone would ever really understand her. The orphanage itself was modern and clean. Robots moved around, delivering meals and cleaning, and children learned about both human and alien culture. But despite the advanced technology and colorful environment, Leora felt trapped in a bubble of fear. Her social anxiety made every interaction a challenge. She had tried speaking to other children before, but her voice would shake, her words would tumble awkwardly, and they would either ignore her or laugh. Each failed attempt reinforced her desire to retreat. One bright morning, the routine of the orphanage was broken by the arrival of a human visitor. He walked in, carrying a crate and a small, lively puppy. The room's attention turned immediately toward him. The children whispered excitedly among themselves, and even the robots paused briefly in their work. Ethan, the human, had kind eyes and a calm presence. He greeted the children softly, setting down the crate, and reached inside. Out bounded the puppy, small and energetic, with golden fur that glimmered under the artificial lights. It barked cheerfully, wagging its tail furiously, and immediately ran around the room, exploring and sniffing. Most children laughed and ran after it, but Leora froze. She was not sure why, but her heart pounded. She had never seen a creature so lively and unafraid. She wanted to look away, but something about the puppy's bright eyes and joyful energy held her gaze. Ethan noticed her. He crouched down and spoke softly, not too close, not too loud. "Hey there, what's your name?" Leora hesitated. Her voice had been unused for days, but she felt a strange pull toward this human. Leora," she whispered, almost inaudibly. "That's a beautiful name," Ethan said with a warm smile. "This little guy is Max. He's going to be your friend if you let him." Leora blinked. Friend? She had never had a real friend before. Friends were supposed to be safe, someone you could trust, but humans always seemed too fast, too loud, too unpredictable. Could she really trust this one? Max, as if sensing her hesitation, trotted over cautiously. He sniffed her hand gently and then licked it softly. Leora froze again, but this time it was different. There was no fear. The puppy's gentle touch sent a warm shiver through her. She had never felt this kind of connection before. Ethan watched silently, giving her space. "He likes you," he said quietly. "Take your time. There's no rush." For the next few days, Ethan returned to the orphanage with Max. Slowly, Leora started spending time with the puppy, feeding him, brushing his soft fur, and even whispering small words she could barely manage. Max seemed to understand her in a way no one else ever had. When she was nervous, he would nuzzle her hand. When she was sad, he would rest his head on her lap. The other children began noticing the change in her. At first, they were curious and kept their distance. Then, as they saw her smile and laugh quietly while playing with Max, some of them started to approach. They asked questions about the puppy, and Leora, though shy, found herself answering. She still spoke softly, but her words came easier now. One afternoon, the orphanage held a small celebration for the children. Decorations hung from the walls, and food was arranged on long tables. Leora usually avoided these events, preferring the quiet corners, but that day she sat near Max as he ran around, chasing small ribbons tied to the floor. A little alien boy named Taven approached her hesitantly. "Can I pet him?" he asked. Leora nodded, feeling a flicker of confidence. Max wagged his tail and allowed Taven to stroke him. The boy's laughter was soft and genuine. Leora felt a strange warmth in her chest, realizing she had made someone else happy. Ethan was nearby, watching with a quiet pride. He had seen many children in the orphanage struggle with fear and isolation, but Leora's growth was remarkable. He knew it was small steps, nothing forced, that made the difference. And for Leora, Max was the bridge between fear and connection. Weeks passed, and Leora's life slowly transformed. She no longer hid in corners. She began to join group activities, though she still needed Max by her side. She discovered that when the puppy was near, loud noises and sudden movements felt less threatening. She could laugh without fear, though softly, and even spoke to a few children she had never dared approach before. One day, the orphanage staff organized a field trip to a nearby park on the planet's surface. It was a large green area with glowing plants and streams of water adapted to the alien environment. Leora had never ventured outside the orphanage alone. Her hands trembled as she walked through the airlock, Max at her side. Children ran around, exploring and playing, but Leora stayed close to the puppy. Slowly, she began walking further, observing the glowing flowers, listening to the sounds of the wind and water. Max ran ahead and then returned, nudging her to follow. For the first time, Leora felt a sense of freedom. Ethan joined her on the walk, walking slightly behind, letting her take the lead. "You're doing great," he said quietly. "I can see how much you've grown." Leora glanced at him, a small smile forming. I like being outside," she admitted softly. "And you're not alone," Ethan said. "You have Max, and you have friends who care about you." That evening, back at the orphanage, Leora sat on her bed, Max curled up beside her. She felt tired but happy. She had laughed, spoken, and even touched the hands of others without fear. It was a small victory, but to her it felt monumental. She looked at the puppy, who yawned and nuzzled her cheek, and whispered, "Thank you, Max. You're my friend." As she drifted to sleep, she realized something important. Trust was not something to be demanded. It was something that grew slowly, nurtured by patience and care. And now, for the first time, she believed she could trust someone, maybe even herself. The days continued in this pattern. Leora learned to feed Max on her own, clean after him, and play small games. Each task, though simple, brought a sense of pride she had never felt before. Children started asking her questions about the puppy's tricks, and she found herself explaining with a quiet confidence that surprised even her. One afternoon, the orphanage received news of a new child arriving. Leora, usually nervous around strangers, felt a twinge of curiosity instead of fear. When the new child entered, looking anxious and unsure, Max immediately ran over to greet them. Leora followed, instinctively extending her hand in friendship. The newcomer smiled, and for the first time, Leora felt the thrill of helping someone else feel safe. Ethan visited less frequently now, knowing that Leora had begun to grow independently. When he came, she would meet him with a smile, showing him what she had learned about caring for Max and interacting with others. Ethan never took credit for her growth. He only guided her gently, letting her discover her own courage. The orphanage staff, once unsure of how to help Leora, began to notice the change as well. They watched as she assisted other anxious children, often using Max as a comforting presence. She was no longer the timid, withdrawn girl hiding in corners. She was becoming a small but shining example of growth, empathy, and resilience. By the end of the first part of her story, Leora had transformed from a frightened, isolated child into someone beginning to understand the value of trust, companionship, and courage. The journey was far from over, and challenges remained. But with Max by her side, she felt ready to face the world. For the first time in her life, Leora smiled without fear, laughed without hesitation, and whispered to her puppy, "We can do this, Max. Together." And for the first time, she believed it. The sun rose over the alien landscape, bathing the orphanage in soft golden light. Leora stretched, yawning, while Max patted around her feet, eager for the day to begin. She had grown used to mornings filled with small tasks, feeding Max, cleaning his little bed, and preparing breakfast for herself. Each routine gave her a quiet sense of control over her life, a feeling she had never experienced before. The day started like any other, but Leora sensed something different. She had a strange excitement, a bubbling curiosity about what she might face. Over the past weeks, she had begun exploring her limits, slowly expanding her world beyond the familiar corners of the orphanage. With Max as her companion, the once isolated girl now found courage she did not know she possessed. The first event of the day was a group activity designed to help children learn teamwork. Normally, Leora would have stayed at the edge, hiding behind Max, but today, she felt something shift. She volunteered to participate, her soft voice barely audible but firm enough to catch the attention of the organizers. She was placed on a small team with Tavin, the boy who had first petted Max, and a few other children. The task was simple in concept, but challenging in execution. The children had to build a small structure using lightweight metallic rods and flexible panels, designed to float in the artificial low-gravity field of the room. Leora observed quietly at first, unsure how to contribute. But Max, sitting patiently beside her, seemed to sense her hesitation. He nudged a rod toward her, as if encouraging her to act. Taking a deep breath, Leora reached out and picked up the rod. Her fingers trembled slightly, but she found the confidence to attach it to the base. The other children paused and watched, surprised by her sudden initiative. Encouraged by their attention and the trust she felt in Max, Leora continued working, offering suggestions for stability and design. Slowly, her team began to rely on her guidance. By the end of the activity, their structure floated perfectly in the low-gravity chamber. The children cheered, and even the staff members expressed admiration. Leora felt a warm glow inside her chest. For the first time, she had contributed meaningfully to a group task and been recognized for it. She looked at Max and whispered, "We did it, Max. See what we can do together?" Later that day, Ethan returned for his usual visit. Leora greeted him with a genuine smile, no trace of hesitation in her eyes. She proudly showed him the structure they had built, explaining the design choices and the teamwork involved. Ethan listened quietly, nodding and offering soft encouragement. "You've come a long way, Leora," he said. "I'm proud of you." That afternoon, the orphanage received an unexpected message. A nearby human settlement had been affected by a minor environmental accident, and several families needed temporary shelter. The staff decided to send some of the older children, along with volunteers, to help with preparations. Leora's heart raced as she was asked if she wanted to join. Normally, the idea of leaving the orphanage, interacting with strangers, and traveling outside would terrify her. But this time, she felt a spark of courage. I want to help," she said softly. Max barked excitedly, as if agreeing with her decision. The journey to the settlement was short, but filled with wonder. Leora observed the terrain, strange, glowing plants, streams of blue-tinted water, and towering rock formations that shimmered in the sunlight. She was so absorbed in the beauty around her that she barely noticed her own nervousness. Max trotted happily beside her, occasionally nudging her hand, or brushing against her leg, keeping her grounded. At the settlement, Leora and the volunteers were greeted warmly. Families were anxious but relieved to see help arriving. Leora hesitated at first, unsure how to interact, but Max immediately approached a small alien child who was clinging to their parent. Leora watched the scene and realized she could do the same. She could offer comfort, guidance, and companionship. Slowly, she began assisting the families, helping distribute supplies and calming anxious children. One child, a little alien girl named Sira, hid behind her mother, trembling. Leora knelt down, holding Max's leash loosely, and said softly, "It's okay. Max and I are here. We won't hurt you." The girl's eyes widened, and after a few moments she reached out to pet the puppy. Leora smiled, gently encouraging her. Soon the girl laughed, a sound filled with relief and joy. Leora felt a surge of pride. She had made someone feel safe. Over the next few hours, Leora continued helping, her confidence growing with each small interaction. She discovered that her fear, though never entirely gone, could be managed when she focused on others and relied on the trust she had built with Max. She realized that courage was not the absence of fear, but the willingness to act despite it. As the day drew to a close, the settlement's residents thanked the volunteers. Several children waved goodbye to Leora, holding on to the memory of her kindness and the joy Max had brought them. Leora felt a strange mix of sadness and fulfillment. She was leaving behind new friends, but she also felt stronger for having helped them. Back at the orphanage, Leora reflected on the day. She realized she had grown beyond what she had once believed possible. She had faced unfamiliar places, unknown people, and her own fear, and she had succeeded. Max curled up beside her, his warmth comforting her tired body. She whispered, "We did something important today, Max. We really did." In the following weeks, Leora's transformation became even more apparent. She took on small leadership roles within the orphanage, guiding younger children during activities and helping them navigate their fears. Max remained her loyal companion, a constant source of encouragement and emotional support. Through him, she found the courage to reach out, speak up, and connect. Her peers began to seek her out for advice and friendship. Children who had once ignored her now asked her to join games, help solve puzzles, or participate in group lessons. Leora still felt moments of anxiety, especially in large groups or unfamiliar situations, but she had learned to rely on Max and the trust she had cultivated to navigate them. One day, a challenge arose that tested everything Leora had learned. A small emergency occurred at the orphanage. A storage unit containing food supplies had malfunctioned, and the children inside panicked. Leora's first instinct was fear, but Max barked sharply as if urging her to act. She took a deep breath, focusing on the task at hand. "Everyone, stay calm," she called out, her voice steady for the first time. Children froze, looking at her in surprise. Leora guided them through the safe exit routes, using Max to calm the younger ones. She moved with purpose, offering words of reassurance and taking charge of the chaotic situation. By the time the staff arrived, the children were safe, and Leora had prevented any harm. The staff praised her, impressed by her calm leadership. Ethan, who had arrived shortly after the incident, gave her a proud nod. "You handled that wonderfully," he said. "I always knew you could." Leora felt a mixture of pride and humility. She had learned that leadership was not about being fearless, but about helping others despite fear. She looked at Max, who wagged his tail happily and whispered, "We did it, Max. We really did it." As days turned into weeks, Leora continued to grow. She became a source of inspiration for other children struggling with anxiety or fear. She learned to embrace new experiences, connect with others, and face challenges head-on. Max remained her steadfast companion, always ready to offer comfort, encouragement, and playful joy. The orphanage staff began to notice a profound change not just in Leora, but in the community as a whole. Her courage and kindness influenced others, fostering an environment where children felt safe to express themselves and explore their abilities. Leora had become more than just a survivor. She was a mentor, a friend, and a symbol of growth and hope. One evening, as the sun set over the alien horizon, painting the sky in shades of pink and purple, Leora sat outside with Max by her side. The once timid girl now felt a sense of peace and accomplishment. She thought about how far she had come, from the lonely corner of the orphanage room to a confident, compassionate leader in her small world. Ethan approached quietly, sitting on the bench beside her. "You've grown so much," he said softly. "I knew you had it in you, but seeing it is incredible." Leora smiled, her heart full. "I didn't do it alone," she replied. "Max helped me, and I had to try, even when I was scared." Ethan nodded, understanding completely. "Courage comes in many forms. Yours just happened to shine brightly." As the stars began to appear in the alien sky, Leora felt a quiet joy. She had faced her fears, formed meaningful connections, and discovered the power of trust and companionship. She knew there would be challenges ahead, but she also knew she could face them, with Max by her side and the lessons she had learned guiding her. Max yawned and rested his head on her lap, and Leora stroked his fur gently. She whispered, "Thank you, Max, for everything." The puppy looked up at her with bright, loving eyes as if to say, "I will always be here." And for the first time in her life, Leora truly believed it.